Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Dr. Will Tuttle, an international best-selling author, composer, former Zen monk, and a leading voice in the intersection of spirituality, compassion, and conscious living. He's best known for his book, The World Peace Diet, which has been translated into multiple languages and explores the deep connection between our daily choices, our consciousness, and the state of the world. From walking across America without money in his 20s to living as a monk in Korea and later teaching around the world, his life has been a continuous exploration of meaning, freedom, and how we live in alignment with our values. Today, we're diving into spirituality, purpose, and what it really means to live consciously, especially for people trying to figure life out in their 20s. Dr. Toru, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much, Sekani, and thanks everyone for joining us. Great to be here.
All right, so yes, I want us to go back in time, right, into your 20s. So,
Right.
right, in your early 20s, you left home and walked across the country on a spiritual journey. So, what pushed you to make such a radical decision?
Thank you. Yeah, so that's a good question. I was born and raised in Concord, Massachusetts, and so it's kind of in the northeastern part of the United States, and it's kind of a famous town because there were some well-known philosophers that lived there back in the 19th century. Emerson and Thoreau and Alcott. These are well-known writers. And so I was just born and raised there. My father owned newspapers, and I was going to take over my father's newspaper business. And I went away to college in Maine, which is from the far northeast, not too, in the country. And I started reading these philosophers, and they were the first ones really to bring into the Western philosophical tradition, to bring ideas from non-Western traditions, especially India and China and some Native American wisdom. And so that was very interesting to me. And I started going more deeply into it. I started meditating for the first time. I started doing yoga. This was back in the early 1970s. And I read a book that was affiliated with this, written also in the late 1800s, called Cosmic Consciousness, which really changed my whole view of life. And the author said that a few rare people had attained a higher level of consciousness that gave them freedom from the narrow-mindedness and fear and self-centeredness. And people, he said, like Jesus and the Buddha and great sages and saints and mystics and prophets from all over the world. He gave different examples of these people and how they had gone through a transformation. Then they no longer only cared about themselves. They cared for everyone. They loved everyone. They became healers and mystics and prophets. And he said basically that most people have what he called self-consciousness, where we only care about ourselves, and we're always competing and trying to get what we want for ourselves. But he said these other people, these rare individuals, had what he called cosmic consciousness. And he said it's the destiny of every human being to attain cosmic consciousness, that is our purpose. We're on this earth not merely to accumulate things, but to discover our true nature, which is infinite and which is eternal and which is filled with love and joy and inner harmony and peace and wisdom. And so I remember reading this and getting very excited about these ideas. And I told my parents about it, and they were somewhat open, but I think my father was a little disappointed that I might not take over his business. But I talked to my younger brother Ed, and he said, "Yes, let's do it. Let's attain cosmic consciousness. That's the most important thing. Let's do it." And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." So as soon as I graduated from college, I was just 20. I was 21, and he was 19. And then a few months later, I just turned 22. We left home. We decided that the best way to attain cosmic consciousness would be to go to California, and that there were spiritual teachers there, and we should go there. So, but we decided we would walk there. We would walk the entire way across the entire United States, all the way across North America, and we would do it with no money. We would just walk like the people in India, where they just go out and they just walk and they don't have any money and they just meditate. So we did. So we left home. I remember walking down the driveway in, I think it was in early September of 1975. And we had some fresh baked cookies from my mother and this little backpacks, and we were heading west. And we just worked our way west, walking about 20 miles a day. And somehow we survived. We didn't have, like I said, we didn't have any money, but it's really interesting, when you really focus on spirituality, the universe gives a lot of help. And so that's what we did. We just focused on spirituality. And there was a teacher from India we had read about who recommended that you go deeper and deeper with a certain question. That question is, who am I? Or what am I? So I was doing that every day. I was asking that question thousands of times a day. Who am I? Who am I? Trying to go deeper, not just the body, not just the collection of thoughts and feelings, not just all the memories and all what I think I am, but what am I actually? And we got as far as the city of Buffalo, which is right on the Canadian border, in October. It's in New York, upstate New York. And we decided to just forget going to California, to just head south, just try to stay ahead of the cold weather that was coming. So we started walking south, and we just went straight south, and we walked, again, like I say, about 20 miles a day down on little roads, little backcountry roads, down through upstate New York, and then into Pennsylvania, all the way across Pennsylvania into West Virginia, down across West Virginia into Kentucky, and then through Kentucky into Tennessee. And this took many months, but we somehow survived. Like I say, we stayed very often on the floors of churches, or in the forest, or sometimes they put us in jail, or sometimes in what are called rescue missions, sometimes in people's houses. All kinds of things. But we didn't starve. We found food somehow. We would help people do something, and they'd give us something to eat, but we just trusted. We just kept trusting. And what Jesus said in the Bible, I thought that was one of our things we always remembered. That the saying, "Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and everything else shall be added unto you." And so we just kept that in mind, that we should just focus on the spiritual dimension of life, on what is our true nature, to try to understand this and focus on that. And the food somehow always manifested. Sometimes it'd be almost like a miracle. We would just see some sandwiches by the side of the road that were just waiting for us, or someone would offer us something to eat. And we would go on every day, just keep going on, traveling on, walking on. And we eventually walked all the way to a community called The Farm, which at that time was the largest hippie commune in the world. It was south of Nashville in Tennessee. And there were about 900 people living there, and they were mostly from California. It was so great. These Californians, they had come out from California to create a community for peace. And they were all vegetarians. Excuse me. They were actually, today we would call them vegans. They didn't eat meat or dairy or eggs or even honey. and they had about 200 children who were vegan from birth. They were all thriving. So I never ate meat in my life since that day at the farm. And we stayed there for probably about a month. And it was really great. We liked it, but we decided to walk farther south, and we ended up walking all the way down to in Alabama, and we ended up at a Zen center, a Buddhist meditation center in Huntsville, Alabama. And that was a great place, and we could just meditate every day, all day, for from 6 o'clock in the morning till about 9 o'clock at night. And that became really the focus. And we did some work around the place, and somehow we managed. And then eventually I studied with some other meditation teachers, and went to Atlanta, Georgia, and then in a meditation center there, and then decided, then I ended up, having to. I worked for a while at a hotel, at a Holiday Inn, while I lived at these meditation centers, and learned how to do all that in a hotel. And then I decided, I saved a little money. I decided to drive out to San Francisco. So I did. I went out to San Francisco. And I ended up living in meditation centers there, Tibetan Buddhist meditation centers. And I knew how to type, so I could find work typing, and doing a lot of meditation and living in different meditation centers there, Tibetan Buddhist for a couple of years, and then a Zen Buddhist meditation center. And then decided to shave my head and become a Zen Buddhist monk. So then I went to South Korea, and I lived in a monastery there in 1984. And but then that was wonderful. I mean, we could meditate. We started meditating every day at 3 o'clock in the morning, and went all the way till 9 o'clock at night. I took a vow of silence for 90 days. Did a lot of inner work, and then eventually decided to come back to the United States. And then I went back and got my PhD at Berkeley, and I taught college for quite a few years. So my life, and then, well, I'll just finish it up. And then after doing that, I decided to leave that, and I moved into a Volkswagen bus and lived in a van and traveled around the whole North America, giving concerts of original piano music, because I can play the piano, and compose my own music, and also teaching workshops on developing intuition. Intuition is our inner guidance system that helps us to live our life authentically. And so I did that, and I did that for quite a few years, and also I was very interested in trying to create more peace on Earth. And so I went over to what was then the Soviet Union. And since the United States and the Soviet Union were almost going to go to war, I went over to the Soviet Union to play concerts for peace, and worked with groups that brought people from the Soviet Union over to the United States to play concerts and work together so we could develop cooperation. And so I went to the Soviet Union twice, and then also to Europe quite a bit, and met my future wife, Madeline, in Switzerland. And she ended up moving into my Volkswagen bus, which was kind of a small space for two people. But then we found a little house. And ever since then, for the last 35 years, we've been married. We've been traveling around the United States and worldwide. I wrote a book called The World Peace Diet, which became a worldwide bestseller on healthy eating with compassion. And then I've written some other books also on developing intuition and living a healthy life. And so we lived without a house in a traveling home for about 17 years. And then we got a house here in Northern California. And now we grow a lot of our own food. We have a garden, a food forest. And we still travel about half the year and give lectures and concerts all over the United States. And I just have to say that I feel so blessed in my life that I left home when I was just turned 20 or 21, and that I was able to sort of leave the world and just be out there. And I discovered the secret, really, I think, to living a life of joy, which is that we have within us always, at all times, a bubbling spring of joy. It's always there, actually. We don't need anything in the outer world to make us happy. We are happiness itself. We are a manifestation of divine love, and we are beautiful, and the world is beautiful, and people are beautiful. And it's really a beautiful world that we're in. This whole earth is very beautiful, and our inner source is also beautiful. And so the main thing is to quiet the mind. The mind is very busy, and it's always thinking and jumping back and forth between the past and the future, trying to change other people, change myself, getting afraid, all these things. So the whole idea is that every day just take time to sit quietly and listen within and quiet the mind. And our mind can be our greatest enemy, but it can be our best friend also. It can be a wonderful friend. Our mind, when it's well trained, when it's calm, whatever happens in the outer world, we realize that it's just an arising in our consciousness, and that we essentially are not our physical body. I think that's the most important thing that we really have to understand clearly, is that we are not our physical body. Our physical body is a vehicle that we use for a few short decades. We're here for maybe 8 or 9 decades. And during that time, we can use our physical body, and we can do things. We can run around and talk and create, do like what you're doing, create a beautiful platform where people can share their ideas. And that's a wonderful thing. And then we leave. We are only here for a few decades. So the whole idea is that we're here to learn, to grow, to help each other, to contribute, to teach, and to remember the deep wisdom that's always shining in our hearts that our culture tries to make us forget. Our culture wants us afraid, wants us sick, wants us separated, because that's how you make a lot of money from people, is you get them afraid and make them think that they're separate from nature and separate from animals and separate from each other, and then they're easily controlled. So the most beneficial thing we can do is to understand that, and then do our best to take responsibility for the quality of our life, the quality of our consciousness, the quality of our relationships, the quality of our food, the quality of our health. Each one of us, if we do our best to think thoughts of kindness and love for others and for ourselves, and understand that everyone we ever meet is suffering. And we're all suffering on some level. Having a physical body, it can get hurt. It's always having some kind of problem. So the whole idea is to understand that, and then have compassion for other people if they're suffering, and do our best to be kind and loving to them. And when we do that, and not just to people, but to animals and future generations and ecosystems, then we just send out into the whole infinite web of relations. We send out our love and our kindness, compassion, and the joy and peace that are our true nature. And it blesses others. And it not only blesses others, but it comes back to us eventually. And so we start to feel more and more at peace ourselves. Our eyes get more bright and more relaxed. Our mind gets more relaxed and quiet and bright and full of joy. And all of our relationships begin to mirror this underlying feeling. Even if there's war in the world and conflict and injustice, we're aware of all that. There's suffering, there's cruelty to humans, to animals. That's part of this world. But in our world that we're creating, we raise our vibration so that we're higher we're helping others to go higher. We're radiating love and peace and kindness. And then that is the best way to create peace in the world. If I think, I'm going to try to stop that violence with violence, it just makes more violence. So we started. So my brother and I, we basically started to just look for this awakening when we were quite young, and that was 50 years ago. And because now I'm in my early 70s, the time goes by really fast. But I have to say, it's really been an absolutely fantastic life I've had, and I'm so grateful to that younger self when I was only 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I decided to put the emphasis on spirituality, on doing my best to figure out and understand what it is that I am, what is a human being, and realize, eventually get a glimpse that a human being is not a thing, is not an object, is not a body. A human being is a manifestation of infinite eternal consciousness that was never born and will never die. What we are was never born and will never die. What we are is of the nature of radiant light and beauty and freedom and creativity. And the more we can understand that and live that and see that in others and see the best in others, and see that our society sort of dims that light, but we can brighten that light ourselves when we make an effort to focus on it. It's really about focusing. But the other thing, too, just to kind of wrap it up, is the idea of practice. Like when I was a little boy, I was the oldest child, and my father played the piano. And I said, he was really good, and I said, I want to play the piano like you. And he said, sure, you can play like me, but you just have to practice. And so when I got a little older, I started practicing and playing the piano every day. And then I would write it down on the little chart in the kitchen that I did 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And gradually, as the years went by, I got better and better at playing the piano. I did scales and arpeggios and then other things, and then was playing music. And our life is like that. We become what we practice. If we practice every day being more quiet and calm and breathing more deeply and slowly and looking with eyes of kindness and respect for others and seeing the beauty around us and practicing a creative capacity, like find something that we like to do. One of the things I do every day is play the piano. And so now I have many CDs of music out. I play concerts all the time, everywhere. And people love the music. I'm very grateful that it's uplifting, healing music. I've done thousands of individual sessions for people, of helping them to heal. And my wife Madeline is an artist. We do music and art to help people heal. And so that's a wonderful thing. And I love to write, so I do a lot of writing and poetry and then just writing books. And my books have sold many thousands of copies. And so we were able, just by finding what's creative and doing it every day, practicing every day, and gradually getting better and better. And then the other thing I think is really helpful is to minimize the desires. There's all these desires. Our society encourages us to have a lot of desires. We want more food, more sex, more money, more products and things that we own. And really, happiness, I found, comes with less of all of that. Really. I mean, when we, the less we have to have, the more we can just realize that joy never comes from getting something in the outside world, because we can always lose it, and we will lose it for sure. So the joy that we would like to have is already inside us. It's already there. We don't need anything. I mean, the more we get, usually the more we cover it up. So minimizing the desires of wanting things, maybe focusing to, if we have any desire at all, it's a desire for freedom, for liberation, for wisdom, for this inner guidance system that can give us, that can help us to live our unique life authentically, that we're living our life, not living somebody else's life. That's the most important thing. Each one of us is here with a unique life to live, and if I can live my life authentically, then there's a sense of joy, and that's the best way to help other people to do the same thing. If I try to give other people advice or change them, I'm just making it worse usually. The best thing is just live our own life and be an example of that for other people. So, and minimizing desires, and then not, and then really, I think it's a good idea, at least for me, not borrowing money. I never borrowed any money. You know, if I couldn't buy, I could never, I never had enough money to buy a house for my whole life until finally in my 60s, we'd saved up enough. So we bought a house. But before that, you know, we just lived on the road or whatever, or rented. But I didn't want to borrow money and have to pay somebody, pay a bank or pay somebody. So I've been free. I've never owed any money to anyone. And I think that's a certain freedom in that also. And then the other thing is really being mindful about being healthy, because health is very important to be happy. And that means eating really healthy food. Like, we only eat organic, whole, plant-based food. We grow a lot of our food now ourselves. We've planted 80 fruit trees, nut trees here on our land. We have about 7 beds of vegetables, grow a lot of vegetables, and we grow potatoes and squashes and grapes and berries and nuts and all kinds of different things. And so we grow a lot of our own food, and that's really very wonderful to grow your own food, because and with time, we feel that the plants get to know us and we get to know them, and then they make food that's not only nourishing, it's actually medicinal, it's actually healing food. And so with eating really healthy food and meditating regularly and making sure our water's clean, our air is clean, you know, really try to be conscious of these things, not buy products that have toxic chemicals in them. And then also doing our best so that all of our relationships with other people are harmonious, and then also getting in touch with nature every day. Every morning I take a swim in the lake near our house here, and the water's cold and it's really healthy. And then being creative, finding a creative outlet, and then getting exercise. You know, all these things, movement, yoga, tai chi, qigong. There's different things we can do, but all these things together, we can be healthy. And the wonderful thing for us, Madeline, my wife Madeline, and me, is that we are now in our 70s, and we've never been to a doctor. You know, in 50 years, we've never been to a drugstore. We never had any drugs, any pharmaceuticals, any medicines, and none of that. We found that if we're just thinking positive thoughts and living in harmony with our true nature, then we'll be at peace. So all of that started when I left home with my brother. It was like I left the whole world. We left, and in a certain sense, we're still here, but we're not really here. If you know what I mean. It's kind of like we're here, but we realize that this is just a temporary stage, and we'll be leaving. We all leave, we all come, and we all go. And we just have a few decades to sing our song and do our dance, and to do it with love for each other. That's the main thing. I'll stop there.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Will. I must say this has been really, really educational, I would say, because I've learned a whole lot from your story. And I can also say that you have lived a purposeful life, right? So Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Not many people, right? Not many people can actually say that, but I can say that because you lived a life that you actually enjoyed. So, yeah, thank you so much for that. And from your story, people would learn a whole lot. And yeah, I have a whole lot of questions to ask. But unfortunately, I do have a guest that just joined and left now. But yeah, before you go, right, I would love for you to, tell us where people can get to learn more about you and even go deeper into your work, your teachings, and your books, right?
Sure, sure, sure. Yeah, thank you so much, Sekani. So, um, I guess the best way is our website, which is just either my name, Will Tuttle, WILLTUTTLE.com, or the book, the most famous book that I wrote, is called The World Peace Diet. So, worldpeacediet.com. Or you can also just go to Amazon or any of the other booksellers, or also Spotify or iTunes for the music and the audiobooks. And but our website has our tour schedule. We give a lot of events. We travel all over the United States, and we've traveled all over the world. But up until COVID, we haven't been doing so much world traveling. But we've been to all the continents, everywhere: Europe, Africa, Asia, the Middle East, South America, North America, everywhere, giving talks and lectures. And so our schedule's there. Videos, we have our video on YouTube. We have a channel there. And you can just put my name in, Will Tuttle, and you'll see videos of my talks and music. And Madeline, my wonderful wife, her videos of preparing food and our food forest. Yeah, it's all on YouTube actually. YouTube and our website would probably be the best thing, I think.
All right. Wow. Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Will. This has been an amazing conversation, right? It's a reminder that the answers that most people are searching for aren't always out there. They're often within, right? They're within us. So yes, thank you, Dr. Will. And to my listeners, thanks for tuning into Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this, and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episode. Once again,